Right there, right?
No.
That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I think we got one side.
Yeah, this is the more flowers. Well, my job is, like, it's a big So this is him. Oh. So you're gonna have it. Yeah.
Then they kind of know where they are. So then we're gonna
Actually, you might not remember.
So,
Baby, how you doing?
so I'm your assistant at American Catholic. I got your back.
We are sick.
That's too bad, she liked this, she liked it actually.
You'll have that like during, doesn't seem like.
I wonder why.
That's quite a ways to
I think I was.
That's it? No.
St. Peter's Church, right on St. Peter's Church. Third Thursday of the month. That is just last Thursday. St. Peter's Church, where they have a 6-month show and everything. We were there. Yeah. But I thought.
Oh, yeah, that big one.
I'm really good at that.
She'll have died.
So that was.
I love that big tree.
Sure.
Not much. I mean, here's the cabin.
Oh, terrific.
This is Renee. Materials. Well, I just said, short 10 yards big.
Yeah, you know, the word shouldn't go on it. I know I use the word
Good, how are you doing, Jerry? Oh, yeah. Good. Yep.
How many are there?
I
Hey.
I don't know. That's some good news.
Yep.
Hi, honey.
I saw you in the first.
Jen said, yeah.
That's always ready to find me.
That's usually where we are.
I don't think they're.
Yeah, they're, I'm going right to 12.
So you can see what they have.
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because I know we went up one time.
Really?
To donate.
Yeah, or Mrs.
Wonderful, how are you?
Well, they changed the color.
That's way back, exactly, that's so true. So I think it's not the hard to get young, it's kind Thank you very much. How are you?
Good, how are you? You're so nice to me today. What happened?
I was reading something about it's so important to go out to the
I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's for
Somebody, I remember somebody else.
Poor Mary. Poor Mary. If you don't want to sit up here, you don't have to. It doesn't bother me. Just go on. Let's see how it is. She called last night and said, she's Good morning. Good morning. If we'll all bow our heads in prayer. As we open this service, we acknowledge all the changes that are happening around us. The beautiful flowers, the leaves, people moving, people going to new places, new understandings, a wide awakenings. Thank you, God. Amen.
A message from Mary Schaff today. She called me, was not feeling good. She's supposed to be platform today, But she said she felt great when she went to bed. At 2 this morning, she woke up not feeling very good. So I said she'd be in our prayers today. So I'm covering for her. So I've asked Luann to light the Christ candle. We light the Christ candle, remembering the Christ within us all. And today we honor the power of zeal. Suzanne, special music?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, we are gonna have our opening 2 songs.
Oh, congressional music.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm so grateful and peace be still. Gratitude behind me, gratitude to the left of me, gratitude to the right of me, gratitude above me, gratitude below me, gratitude within me, gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful. 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 Gratitude before me. Gratitude behind me. Gratitude to the left of me. Gratitude to the right of me. Gratitude above me. Gratitude below me. Gratitude within me. Gratitude all around me. I'm so grateful. 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 This is the Brahms lullabies.
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Peace be still. I'm with you always. I'll sustain me, ever caring. All of my life and love. Peace be still. Peace be still. In the presence of God. People dying and your death as a God's arms
Words up top.
God is love, God is love, God is dwelling, manifesting, all according to His law. God is mine, God is blood, all His hand is command. Peace be still, peace be still. All within all is well. All is well, all is well. God is with us always. God the Father and Mother. This is our sustaining love. We are one, we are one. In the presence of God, we are one in His love, knowing all is well.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome you all today to our Sunday service. If anyone is here for the first time, we'd like to recognize you. Just raise your hand. We welcome you. Anybody here for the first time? Well, great. Welcome back. Good to see everybody. All right, let's begin with our vision statement. Every life, a spiritually transformed life. Now we have some special music.
Oh, yes.
Now Pat and Bill can't make it today.
Yes, Patricia's sick, so, I just said it's okay, get better off. So this piece is written by, Mark Hayes. He's a phenomenal composer. It's called Isn't It Beautiful?
Well, Diana will give us the daily word.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Today's word is generosity. Divine love through me multiplies all that I give and receive. A classic unity hymn declares, love is something, if you give it away, you end up having more. While it is true that freely sharing my talent, time, and treasures attract all into my life, I am inspired to give for the sheer joy of giving. Recognizing my oneness with all people in God, I know every thought, word, helping hand, and financial gift I offer blesses me as much as it blesses who receives it. Because I know that both giving and receiving are essential to the flow of abundance, I accept all gratitude and love of gifts and the blessing that come to me through the loving generosity to others, of others. I count each day as another opportunity for me to give in return. Timothy 6:18. They are to do good, to be rich, in good works, generosity, and ready to share. Here ends the reading.
Thank you, Diana. Now let's join together in our affirmation of faith. There is only one presence and one power in me and in the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. Now let's stand for another song. I am an expression of infinite light.
Now let's prepare ourselves for a meditation. If everybody will sit comfortably, put your feet planted firmly on the ground and release everything from your head to your toes, allowing your feet to plant themselves firmly on the ground. As those thoughts come into mind, just swish them away and find a spot where many years ago you as a child might have sat. And as you remember this spot, feel the sunlight on your face, the joy in your spirit, the wonderful connection you have with life and living. Let's just sit there a second and think, remembering the less chaotic world you lived in. Think of your thoughts, those of the past, those you can collect in your memory where you reunited with the world. Perhaps the green grass, perhaps the smell, perhaps the sunlight. Maybe you're reading the clouds, those beautiful clouds. Looking at our universe with love and understanding. Now let's leave that spot And let's age ourselves a little. Think of yourself as a teenager. Your thoughts, your ambitions, your desires, your willingness to accept the newness of the whole experience. Bring that forward with you and age a little more. Where do you find yourself? How have your thoughts changed? What are you experiencing? Bring those thoughts with you. And go to today, to that wonderful spot in your life today where you can meditate, where you can think, clearing the hustle and the bustle of everything. What are you thinking? Where are you heading? As you come back into the room, bring with you those stages, those loving stages that you've experienced through your life, with the knowledge of each and every experience. When you feel comfortable, open your eyes and come back into the room. Morning. How's everybody today?
Great.
I'm so glad to hear it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about your birthright and claiming that birthright. Now, you know, when I was a little girl, my grandma Connor, that would be my father's mother, had a streak of white hair right down her head. And I remember thinking that was the weirdest thing I ever did see. Now, today, you know, that Dalmatians movie, that would remind you of her hair. But at the time, there was no Dalmatians movie, so it wasn't a problem. As I aged, I got that streak. In fact, 3 of us girls got the streak. My brother just went bald. And That was my heritage claim right. That was something that just happened to me. I didn't pick it, I didn't die it, it just was part of me, it's part of my heritage. And when we talk about our divine birthright, it's really spiritual and close to our souls. You know, many of the traditional Christian churches believe in original sin. Now, I'm sure you're all aware of original sin. That's when Adam and Eve ate of the tree of good and evil. Now, by eating this apple, supposedly, sin was created. But let me tell you, this is on the high side. We are so lucky. We don't believe in original sin. We believe that we are inherently born good. So we start our lives in this good state. And then what do you think happens? Stuff. Lots of stuff. We are bombarded on a daily basis by other thoughts, by other things. I like to call this a void or a lack of consciousness. When we're in this void, we experience counterproductive activities. We feel fear. We feel anxiety. We feel worry. And we feel doubt. Now, I'm sure all of you have been there. Maybe you haven't. Maybe it's just me. But it encompasses your life. And it seems to build on each other, almost like a storm. You know, I get worried. Then I get more worried. Then I'm worried about something I shouldn't even be worried about. And then I'm worried about something else. I have anxiety. I have fear. Sometimes I get sick. But I'm doing it. I'm making it happen to me. I can just as easily correct that thought by thinking of harmony, joy, peace. John said an interesting thing today. Tom said an interesting thing today. I'm sorry. Tom said that he was greeting people in joy. And that joy begets joy. We believe that. What a wonderful thought. If we all meet each other in joy and love and understanding. Now, I don't think that this goes without reference. In Genesis 1, verse 27, the verse says, "So God created mankind in his own image. To that image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them in his own image." I cannot imagine who I would rather be born like than somebody with all the grace that God has, all the love, all the understanding. And we know that this image is our divine birthright. It makes us oneness. You know, today, the songs, it appeared, and I may be wrong, that the words were different out there than they were that we were singing. So I was thinking, well, I think Luann wanted to quit singing. And I thought, oh no, just sing louder, just sing louder. And
I was just gonna come down and sing the words.
anyway, and I thought, oh well, just keep singing. We'll just be one in the melody of the song, not in the words. But we were one. We were one, united together. Don't you think that's terrific? In our today's experiences, when do we get to be one? Not one with just a segment of people we believe with, or we understand, but one with everybody. Because in our divine birthright, I don't care what you think about everything else. I simply love you. I simply love you as I have been loved. For what you are, for what your potential is, for what you could be. Maybe what you're not going to be. I still love you. It's a wonderful thing. It's a divine right. Each and every one of us has this. One of the things that Unity has given us is power of mind and body. It was founded in the early 1800s, and it didn't start as a church. It started as Charles and Myrtle sitting in a room deciding that they should publish a magazine. That magazine grew into a prayer group. That prayer group grew into what we know today as Silent Unity. 2 million people are served 24/7 a day. They're served through emails, letters, phones. Anyone can call. About 100 years after Unity was founded, a gal named Reverend Connie Fillmore Basie became the CEO of Unity. She's the granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle. Hard to believe, but she's the first one that wrote down the 5 principles. And I find this really interesting because that was 100 years after these principles began to take place. She published it in a book that I know we have all seen, Keys to the Kingdom, 5 Fundamentals of Truth. In 2006, Ellen Davenport wrote the book. Ellen, the first sentence in her book of the 5 principles, wrote, "A principle is a rule or law that never changes. It applies to all people, everywhere and all the time." I think the key here is everywhere and all the time. You know, we tend to believe that we have this divine birthright when in crisis. Boy, God's the go-to guy. We go to God when we're in crisis. Begin to think about going to God when you're not in crisis, when you kind of have the ability to just talk, to just communicate, to do that interfacing. So I'd like to spend a little time now reviewing the 5 principles. And we're going to start with 1. God is the source and creator of all. There is no other enduring power. God is good and present everywhere. The difficulty is we don't always recognize it. We're rushing, we're hurrying, we have an appointment, we have something else to do. We don't really take the time to look at the flowers, to look at the faces of people when you're in line in the grocery store. Look at that poor mother whose baby's having a nervous breakdown, crying. See the joy in the mother's face. Because that's where God is. We also tend to live in upcoming minutes, not the here and now. Because we went to the store to get the food, to take to the party. So the party's in our mind, so we think about the party. We don't think about the store. We don't think about the experience with the cashier. We don't think about anything. And it applies to all people, everywhere, and all the time. So just for fun, let's call one God is. Everybody? God is. Okay, our second principle. We are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives with each person. Therefore, we are all people are inherently good. Eric Butterworth affirmed, forgetting the things that are behind, I realize I am strong, positive, powerful, wise, loving, fearless, free-spirited. I am God's perfect child. Let's all say that once. I am God's perfect child. Now, you do have to believe it when you say it, okay? A little gusto going there. I am God's perfect child. We're going to remember number 2 by saying I won. I am. I am. So number 1 is God is, I am. 3, we create our life experiences through our way of thinking. Every day we have experiences that create our thinking patterns. If we focus on the negative, we are in that void of consciousness. If we focus on the positive, we reap the benefits of the law of attraction. Now, certainly you've all heard, thoughts in mind produce thoughts in kind. We have an infinite stream of potentiality. We know we can draw that to us. We believe we can draw that to us. Edward Bailey Elliott, an Oxford English mathematician who lived from 1851 to 1937, stated, by being yourself, you put something wonderful into the world that was never there before. Let's call principle 3, I can. I can. All right, so 1 is God is, 2 is I am, 3 is I can. Principle 4 is our toolbox. All the different ways that we can learn to communicate with God. There's a power in affirmative prayer, which we believe increases our connection to God. God gave us tools to communicate with him. We pray, we meditate, and we use these tools to connect with God. Show up the way you are. Be what you are. I have a favorite affirmation that we used to say years ago. I am God's perfect child. God and I love you just the way you are. And I can remember sitting over in that corner with my mom sitting next to me, and she had put her hand on mine. And she'd look at me, but she'd look at me sort of like, knowing that I had been so perfect all my life. It's one of the most loving moments that I have in my memory. And when I can't see her anymore, and she's been gone so long, I can close my eyes and I can think about that affirmation and her holding my hand. Because I could be a little stinker, and I knew it, and I enjoyed it. Okay, so in our bag of tools, we need to think about affirmation and prayer. And we need to think about it not in times of need, but all the time. The biggest problem that I see with religion is that we reach to it in times of need, not all the time. And when we begin to live our lives in that all the time, the here and now, the spirit of it all, we seem to do much better. We seem to have a better framework. I'm looking for a quote I found. Eckhart Tolle said, "You do not become good by trying to be good, but by finding that goodness within you that is already there and allowing that goodness to emerge." So if you use your toolbox, not when you're in crisis, but when you're just living life, think about how calming that could be throughout your life. So our fourth principle we're going to say is, as soon as I find the piece of paper, I plan. I practice. So the first one is, God is. Second, I am. I can. And I practice. The final and the last principle is the knowledge that these principles are not enough. We must just live by them. By living these spiritual principles, we co-create our higher consciousness. If you want to see change, we have to work at it together. We have to co-create. God didn't put us on earth to follow a little pattern. God put us on earth so we could all be a part of the co-creating. You need to think of positive thoughts, not only in good situations, but in difficult situations. We need to remember that we are always created in the image of God. Now, our tools are, 1, God is. 2, I can. 3, I can. I practice, and I live it. I'd like to, in closing, read your poem by Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it met in the other undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though, as for that passing there, had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden back. Oh, I keep the first for another day. Yet knowing how ways lead on to way, I doubted if I would ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. Finally, I have one more thought. If you believe that you don't belong in this world, remember that you were born to create a new world, and only you can make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. One of my favorite word poems sort of is from Emerson. The one, do not go where the path may lead, go where there is no path and leave a trail. Okay, let's take our tithes, our gifts, our offerings in our hands. And together, let us affirm our offertory affirmation. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am thankful. I love you.
Thank you all for these wonderful gifts, those that are economic, those that are participatory, those that go out in the world, and those that stay close to home.
Okay, a few announcements. First of all, today is town hall meeting day, so please remain afterwards for a brief meeting to express your views on things. And the potluck is coming up then next month on the 3rd of November. So are there any other announcements from the floor? Tom?
Something we have heard, I can tell all of you, John and I sold our house. We only now own one house, we're moving to Florida, and even though I know we don't believe in hell, when it gets hotter than hell down there, we're back up here in September. It's gonna red.
Anything else?
Suzanne?
And I'm also leaving, and I'm having a sale next Friday and Saturday. And I have some fun stuff that I can't take with me anymore. If you want to come back and pick it up, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Never.
So our choir practice starts today for our Christmas program. And just come, it doesn't matter if you were in the choir last year and you want to try it, I would love to have you. I think right now I have 5 people. So a few more would be wonderful. The music is not that hard, and I'll help you learn it. So I'm really excited. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, let's, Sherry?
If you live in Douglas and have never been to the adult Halloween parade, sorry, Friday night, it's coming Friday night. It doesn't start until 10 o'clock. There are no shortages.
Saturday.
And if you want to see 3,000 people, well, that's a parade. It's usually at the next one.
Thank you.
You did it, Jerry? I'm sorry?
What are you going as?
Where are we?
No, what are you going as in the parade?
Sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, let's stand and form a circle and do our closing.
Go in peace, love, and understanding.
It's not about participation, but I may not see you last.